Welcome to Middleton Hall, a Learn English radio series from the British Council. The Unwelcome Guest, Episode 10.
Hello, my name's Amanda Carlton.
And I'm David Evans.
And in this series, we aim to improve your English language skills with the help of a story about life in an English hotel called Middleton Hall.
And today we have the final episode of our story, The Unwelcome Guest.
Middleton Hall has had an unwelcome guest called Mr. Noakes, who has caused everyone in the hotel a lot of problems.
Mr. and Mrs. Middleton needed his room for a very important guest called Miss Woodward, but Mr. Noakes refused to leave. And then Kevin had the idea of pretending to be a ghost to frighten him. But that plan went disastrously wrong, and, as we heard last time, Kevin was dismissed from his job.
And so in the last programme, when Miss Woodward arrived, there was no room for her. Sitwell started to apologise.
And then this happened.
Is there some kind of problem?
I'm afraid there is. Sitwell, perhaps you can explain the situation.
Of course, Mrs. Middleton. Miss Woodward, we are terribly sorry about this, but we have had one or two issues at Middleton Hall this week.
No! Get away from me!
Just a moment, Sitwell. Did you just hear something?
It sounds like someone's in trouble.
Get away from me! Get away from me!
It sounds like Mr. Noakes.
Let me out! Let me out!
Is everything all right, sir?
Get out of my way! Let me out of here!
Mr. Noakes, what is going on?
I'm leaving! I'm leaving, and I'm never coming back!
But, Mr. Noakes, what about your bags?
Never! Never! Never!
How extraordinary!
Yes, he looked like he'd seen a ghost, didn't he?
Yes, he did, didn't he?
In today's first scene, Miss Woodward says,
Anyway, you were saying that there was some kind of problem.
Of course, the problem was that there wasn't a room for her. But now that Mr. Noakes has left, they do have a room. And so what does Mrs. Middleton say that the problem was? And one other question for you. What does Mr. Middleton suggest that Miss Woodward should do? Here's the scene.
Anyway, you were saying that there was some kind of problem?
A problem? Yes, there was a problem, wasn't there?
So, what is it?
The problem was that your room is not quite ready.
Oh, I don't mind that. I thought it was something much more serious.
Well, Maria will get it ready for you immediately, won't you, Maria?
Of course, Mr. Sitwell.
Perhaps you'd like to have a cup of tea in the lounge while you wait, Miss Woodward.
That would be very nice.
Come this way, please, madam. You must be tired after your journey.
Yes, it took much longer than I thought.
So what does Mrs. Middleton say that the problem was?
The problem was, that your room is not quite ready.
Miss Woodward replies,
I don't mind that. I thought it was something much more serious.
And what does Mr. Middleton suggest that Miss Woodward should do? He says,
Perhaps you'd like to have a cup of tea in the lounge while you wait. You're listening to Middleton Hall, a Learn English radio programme from the British Council.
In the next scene, Mr. and Mrs. Middleton ask Maria about what happened to Mr. Noakes. Mr. Middleton says,
Do you have any idea why Mr. Noakes ran out of the hotel like that?
Maria replies,
I think it probably has something to do with Kevin.
But she doesn't know exactly what Kevin did. Mrs. Middleton tells her,
You're being very mysterious.
And here are two questions for you. What do Mr. and Mrs. Middleton decide to do about Kevin? And what is Mr. Middleton going to do next? Here's the scene.
Right, I'd better go and get the room ready.
Before you go, Maria, can I ask a question?
Of course, Mr. Middleton.
Do you have any idea why Mr. Noakes ran out of the hotel like that?
Well, I think it probably has something to do with Kevin.
Really? Why? What did he do?
I'm not sure exactly. And anyway, I don't think he'd like me to tell you.
You're being very mysterious, Maria.
Well, whatever Kevin did, he was certainly successful.
He certainly was. I thought we would have to tell Miss Woodward there was no room for her. I thought we'd have to send her home.
Yes, it wasn't looking good, was it? Well, good old Kevin, eh?
Yes, good old Kevin.
Do you know something, my dear? I wonder if we've made the right decision. You know, about asking Kevin to leave.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
I've always rather liked him.
Yes, and so have I.
Shall we tell him we've changed our minds? Shall we ask him to stay?
Yes, yes, I think we should.
Oh, Kevin will be so pleased. Shall I go upstairs and tell him?
No. You get Miss Woodward's room ready. I'll go and speak to Kevin myself.
Of course, Mr. Middleton.
So, what do Mr. and Mrs. Middleton decide to do about Kevin? Mr. Middleton says,
I wonder if we've made the right decision. You know, about asking Kevin to leave.
Mrs. Middleton says she was thinking the same thing, and so Mr. Middleton says,
Shall we tell him we've changed our minds? Shall we ask him to stay?
Maria is delighted and offers to go and tell Kevin the good news. But what does Mr. Middleton do next? He says,
I'll go and speak to Kevin myself.
You're listening to Middleton Hall, a Learn English radio series from the British Council. And don't forget that you can find more resources at the British Council Learn English website at learnenglish.britishcouncil.org. The next scene takes place the following morning. Kevin is telling Maria about what happened. He says,
I had my bags packed. I was ready to leave. And then Mr. Middleton knocked on the door. I was so pleased, Maria.
He was happy because, of course, Mr. Middleton told him he still had a job at Middleton Hall. Maria then asks Kevin,
What did you do to Mr. Noakes to make him run away like that?
And what is Kevin's answer to that question? Mrs. Middleton then comes into reception and says,
I just found this in the middle of the lawn.
So what has she found? Let's find out.
Yes, I had my bags packed. I was ready to leave. And then Mr. Middleton knocked on the door. I was so pleased, Maria. I was so happy.
Yes, it's all turned out rather well, hasn't it? Apparently, Miss Woodward loves her room and thinks the hotel is lovely. So Mrs. Middleton's happy.
And the rain has stopped at last. And the sun is actually shining.
So, tell me the truth, Kevin. What did you do? What did you do to make Mr. Noakes run away like that?
I didn't do anything. I was upstairs in my room packing my bag.
Oh, come on, Kevin. You must have done something.
I didn't. Really, I didn't.
Kevin.
I promise.
I don't believe you.
Hello, you two. Haven't you got any work to do?
Oh, hello, Mrs. Middleton.
I just found this in the middle of the lawn. An old black hat. One of the guests must have left it there, I suppose. Very strange.
What?
An old black hat.
Yes, a very old black hat. I haven't seen one like it for years. I mean, look at it.
A black hat. An old black hat.
Yes, an old black hat. Are you all right, Kevin?
You found it in the middle of the lawn?
That's what I just said. Now, Maria, could you put it in the back office for me?
But Mrs. Middleton,
It can't be. It can't be.
What on earth is wrong with you two? Oh, don't worry. I'll do it myself.
So what did Kevin do to make Mr. Noakes run out of the hotel? He says,
I didn't do anything. I was upstairs in my room, packing my bag.
but Maria doesn't believe him. She thinks Kevin did something to frighten Mr. Noakes. And then Mrs. Middleton comes into reception. And what has she found in the middle of the lawn?
An old black hat.
She says,
One of the guests must have left it there, I suppose. Very strange.
Kevin and Maria can't believe it. Kevin says,
A black hat? An old black hat?
and why are they both so shocked? They're thinking of the ghost story that Kevin heard in the village shop a few programs ago. Do you remember it?
Anyway, it was a dark, stormy night like tonight. The rain fell, the wind howled, and the thunder crashed. Old Mr. Middleton was sitting at home with his family when there was a knock at the door. And they heard a deep voice.
Let me in, Mr. Middleton. Let me in this minute, or you'll regret it.
As soon as old Mr. Middleton heard that voice, everyone knew he was scared.
Oh, he was terrified. That's what I heard.
Don't open the door, old Mr. Middleton said to his family. And so they all sat there and listened. The strange man walked around the outside of the house, banging on the doors and rattling the windows. As his shadow passed, they could see he was wearing a tall, black hat. And every now and then, they heard a growl from a dog which followed his every step.
Let me in, Mr. Middleton.
The strange man shouted.
Let me in, or you'll regret it.
But old Mr. Middleton didn't move from his chair. The shouting and the banging went on all night, and it was nearly dawn before anyone in the house got any sleep at all. And when they woke up the next morning and looked out of their windows, the strange man had gone. But his dog was still outside, howling and howling. And in the middle of the lawn was a tall, black hat.
Wow.
They never saw the strange man again, and nobody discovered what he wanted from old Mr. Middleton. But they say he returns to Middleton Hall on stormy nights like this one, rattling the windows and banging on the doors.
And that brings us to the end of our story, The Unwelcome Guest.
Join us again next time when we begin a brand new story called The Wedding Reception. But that's all for today. You've been listening to Middleton Hall, a British Council Learn English radio series. And remember, you can find more resources at the British Council Learn English website at learnenglish.britishcouncil.org. Until next time, from Amanda Carlton and me, David Evans.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.